What's good, royal family? I'm back at you again for another video. Right now we gonna look at husband of Food Network star pleads guilty in 3-year-old's death. Now, I don't know that much about this case either. However, I know that it was their foster child. This shit is getting really fucking crazy. Anyway, let's take a look at this.
Mr. Robinson, you are here today on indictment 2022 GS23-2108, and you are here today pleading to aiding and abetting homicide by child abuse. That carries 10 to 20 years. Is that your understanding?
Yes, ma'am.
That is classified as a violent and most serious offense. Is that your understanding?
Yes, ma'am.
In other words, that's 2 of your 3 strikes with regards to life without the possibility of parole. Do you know that?
Yes, ma'am.
Have you discussed this charge with your lawyer?
Yes.
Are you happy with what your lawyer's done for you?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you under the influence of drugs or alcohol here today?
No, ma'am.
Has anyone forced you to plead guilty?
No, ma'am.
Has anyone promised you anything to get you to plead guilty?
No, ma'am.
When you plead guilty, you give up certain constitutional rights. One is your right to remain silent about this charge. Do you know that?
Yes, ma'am.
You also give up your right to a jury trial. At that trial, your attorney could call witnesses for you, cross-examine witnesses against you, and the state would have to prove your guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. But when you plead guilty, you give up your right to a jury trial. Do you know that?
Yes, ma'am.
This sentencing sheet says that you're 35 years old. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
How far have you gone in school?
12th grade. I didn't graduate.
Okay. 12th grade, but didn't graduate? Do you have a GED?
No.
Okay. What type of work have you done?
I worked at a chicken farm and at a producer warehouse manufacturing this basically a food line warehouse.
Okay. Are you currently employed?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Have you ever been treated for any mental health disorder?
No, ma'am.
Have you ever been treated for any substance abuse disorder?
No, ma'am.
How do you plead to this charge?
Guilty.
All right. I want you to hear the facts in this case. I'll have some other questions for you, and I believe the prosecutor is going to have some questions for you as well. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And before we go any further, Mr. Robinson, will you raise your right hand? You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth under penalty of perjury?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, you can put your hand down, and the answers you've given me here today have been the truth?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Your Honor. May it please the court. On January 14th, 2021, around 2:15 rather, this defendant called 911 and stated, quote, "We have an emergency. Our daughter, she's unresponsive. She drank a lot of water. We tried to do CPR to get it out. Our 3-year-old daughter is choking on water right now." Police responded to 515 Selwood Circle within Greenville County and found 3-year-old Victoria Rose Smith unresponsive and badly injured. Co-defendant Ariel Robinson told first responders that they thought Tori was drinking too much water, but firefighters saw unexplained excessive bruising all over Tori's body. Deep purple bruising on her abdomen, bruising on her ear, bruising down her back, and up and down both of her legs. Police talked with Ariel Robinson, who gave an account of Tori's day on January 13th, 2021, and the events leading up to when this defendant called 911. She told police that the night before, Tori had thrown up on the way to church. Ariel Robinson said after church, they ate pizza at home and Tori seemed fine. They went to bed with no issues, she said. The next morning on January 14th, 2021, Ariel said Tori woke up, ate pancakes while she and this defendant were home alone with the child, and the other 4 children were at school. Ariel Robinson said Tori kept asking for water, and this defendant filled up her cup 5 or 6 times. She also said Tori said her stomach hurt and that she was cold. She gave her a heated blanket and was holding Tori when Ariel Robinson said the child went limp. Ariel Robinson then said she tried to perform the Heimlich maneuver because she thought the child was choking. While police were on the scene, this defendant maintained Ariel Robinson's account of what happened to Tori. "We took CPR training. She was pressing on her stomach," end quote. Investigator McGall asked this defendant, "Do you feel like her airway was blocked?" This defendant said, "I'm not sure. I was too busy trying to get paramedics here. She first thought she was choking. She tried to do the Heimlich." Investigators asked Ariel Robinson, judge, about the bruising on Tori's abdomen and whether it was there prior to EMS getting there. She said, "I did that." She said, "I was pushing really hard." Then an officer asked about the extensive bruising on Victoria's body. That's when Ariel Robinson blamed Tori's 7-year-old brother for the other bruising up and down her legs. She said he had anger issues. The officer further asked what a 7-year-old could do to cause such extreme bruising to the child's legs, and co-defendant Ariel Robinson said he'll pick up anything and hit her. Tori died, judge, later that day. An autopsy was conducted by Chief Medical Examiner Dr. Michael Ward, and he determined that Tori died from multiple blunt force trauma, and the manner of death was homicide. In Dr. Ward's terms, she bled out inside her own legs. Several days later, they were both arrested. After the arrest, Austin Robinson's attorney, Lucas Marchant, who's present in court, contacted the state and stated that his client wished to make a statement. No promises were given to this defendant, and the phone call was on this defendant's accord. The defendant came in voluntarily and met with police to tell what had really happened to Tori. He said he had not physically ever hurt Tori, but that his wife would spank and beat her. Austin Robinson said Ariel Robinson hit Tori with different things, including a belt, paddle, flip-flop, hand, or whatever. He said Tori got the worst of it for some reason when Ariel would become angry over eating habits, such as Tori taking too long. He told police how Ariel had become angry the night before Tori's death because she threw up on herself on the way to church. The next morning, this defendant said it all started when Ariel was fussing at Tori for not eating her pancakes fast enough, and that Ariel had put Tori on a timer. This defendant said he heard Ariel beat Tori with a belt from outside the house and he could hear Tori crying. This defendant came inside and saw Ariel Robinson standing over Tori with a belt saying, "You're not done. You don't get to tell me when you're done." When he saw how badly Tori was beaten, he told Ariel, "Look at her. You've done too much. You've gone too far. You went too far this time." Ariel then put Tori in an Epsom salt bath. This defendant went off to CVS to buy medication to bring down the bruising, judge. This was at 1:00 p.m. 911 was not contacted until around 2:15 p.m. Law enforcement secured video from the CVS showing Austin Robinson, in fact, buying that liquid Tylenol that he talked about around 1:00 in his statement to police. Law enforcement also secured video from the church where the Robinsons attended church the night before Tori's death. The video at one point shows Tori being walked out of the church by Ariel Robinson wearing what appears to be nothing but a diaper and some undergarment, judge. And in the video, you see no visible injuries to the child's back, her legs, or her body at this time. The child did not have any known health problems, did not attend school, and at the time of Tori's death, the Robinsons were fostering to adopt Tori and her 2 brothers. Judge, the state has a few questions to ask Mr. Robinson.
All right. Mr. Robinson, before we go any further, you heard the facts as stated by the solicitor. Is that what happened?
Yes, ma'am.
And how do you plead to this charge? Homicide by aiding and abetting, homicide by child abuse?
Yes.
All right. I'll accept your plea as being freely and voluntarily made with the advice of extremely competent counsel with whom you say you're well satisfied. Plea does have a substantial factual basis. I'll remind you you're under oath. All right.
Mr. Robinson, when you were outside the house that morning, what did you hear?
I heard Tori screaming and crying.
And what were you doing outside the house?
I was putting up, doing a little bit of yard work. Basically just I had just let my van get towed off and all that stuff. We were trying to get that fixed. But other than that, I was just trying to pick up like stuff from the backyard to the front yard, move to the front at that time.
What was Tori screaming and crying about?
Basically just getting fussed at by her mother, getting a whooping for not getting her food.
And I'm sorry, you said a whooping?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Had you ever heard this before?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you speak a little louder?
Yes, ma'am.
So you were outside, you heard this whooping happening.
Yes, ma'am.
Why did you not walk inside?
By the time I did walk in there, it was as if nothing was going on. Like I said, she was seemingly okay at the time.
Okay. That morning when Tori woke up, was she fine?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So at some point, do you walk inside to see what's going on with this whooping that's happening to Tori?
Yes, ma'am.
And when you walked inside, what, if anything, did you see?
I saw the bruise.
You saw the bruising.
Yes, ma'am.
Who was in the house when you came inside and saw the bruising on Tori?
Ariel was.
Can you speak up?
Ariel was.
And can you tell the court what, if anything, was Ariel holding at that time?
It was a belt.
And what, if anything, was Tori doing at that time?
She was crying.
What was Tori wearing?
Nothing.
Nothing. So you saw the bruising?
Yes, ma'am.
What did you say, if anything, to Ariel Robinson when you walked in?
I just told her that it went too far. That we had gone too far this time. I should have stopped it.
When you said that, what was Ariel holding?
Okay.
After that, what, if anything, did Tori do?
She basically just tried to walk up the steps when Ariel went to go try to give her a bath. And Tori tried to walk up the steps, but she fell. And she tried to walk the rest of the way.
Why did she fall?
From
From the what?
beating.
I'm sorry, what?
From the beating.
So she walks upstairs after falling. What happened then?
I went to go get Tylenol while Ariel tried to soak her in the bathtub.
Did Ariel's 7-year-old brother, with initials J.E., cause the injuries to Victoria Rose Smith on that day?
No, ma'am.
Where were the other children when Victoria was beaten by Ariel?
They were at school.
Nothing further, Judge.
All right. Mr. Marchand?
Judge, we thank you for accepting the plea. Obviously, this is a very heavy day for everybody involved. As everyone is well aware, the state is taking Miss Robinson to trial, I think on May the 9th. I believe the state will concur with the comments I'm getting ready to make about his cooperation. As has already been recited, we met with SLED and Simpsonville PD a very few days after I was hired. Met with them for several hours. We have met with the state for several hours. In addition to that, leading up to the plea today, we will continue to do so and cooperate with the state in the prosecution of the remainder of the case. I put all that on the record and bring it to your attention because I believe we need to probably address the issue of bond, given that he has entered a plea. I would ask that you take into consideration his cooperation, the constant contact he has had with me, and I would point you back to the order that you signed back on April the 16th of 2021, where you granted a $150,000 bond with the conditions of HIP and GPS monitoring, no contact with any minor under 18 years old, must reside with his parents. Minors cannot be in the home. He cannot possess any firearms while on bond. If there were any HIP or GPS violations, that would result in his immediate arrest, and he will stay in jail until the case is resolved. The family court shall determine any contact with biological children, but must be supervised by DSS. As your Honor is aware, he is here today. We have not had any violations with Sentinel or the detention center. I believe he's been in 100% compliance with DSS as far as contact with his own children. He has not had any contact with the other would have been adopted boys. So I'm asking, and I think the state would concur so we can continue to prepare for trial, that he be allowed to remain out on bond. Prior to today's hearing, I made contact with Sonia Richardson with Angels Bail Bonding. I sent a copy of that statement to the court where she is agreeable to keep monitoring him even though he has entered his guilty plea until his sentencing date. So respectfully, we'd ask that he remain on bond until sentencing date. We are aware that he will need to go to the detention center to be processed on the direct presentment, and we're more than willing to do that. We do have some logistical things to accomplish this morning, but we believe it can be done today.
Your Honor, just a few things to put on the record. One, As I previously stated, the state made no promises or anything when Mr. Robinson contacted the state and gave his statement. And I wanted to be clear about plea negotiations in this case. All that Mr. Robinson has been given is the ability to plead under subpart 2 in the homicide by child abuse statute. Subpart 1 carries 20 to life. Subpart 2, as Your Honor stated, carries a mandatory minimum 10 to 20 years. So Mr. Robinson is going to prison. It's just a question between 10 and 20 years what his sentence will be. We would ask the court to defer the sentence. The state is just asking for his truthful testimony at trial, and that once the trial is concluded, that he be sentenced by Your Honor within that range of 10 to 20 years in prison.
All right. And the state has no objection to his previous bond conditions remaining in place?
No, ma'am.
All right then. Very well. Then I will leave his previous bond conditions in place. I'll accept the plea as I stated. I will defer sentencing on this matter pending the outcome of the trial. All right.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Judge.
Now, I just wanted to say first that if you're wondering what this lady right here was speaking into, she is a stenographer, and she's just documenting what happened in the courtroom rather than just typing it. Now, as you heard, the wife has court on May 9th. It's crazy to me that the husband turned state's evidence, but I do not agree that he should be let out. The severity of this case, even if what he's saying is true, far as him, just knowing that his wife was abusing a child, I do not think that this was the first time that this child was abused. However, to the magnitude, obviously, this had to have been the first time because it cost the child her life. However, I just don't think that, it's cool that he had knowledge of abuse or his wife's behavior, period, and then, kind of just gets to play state's evidence. However, they want to get somebody with homicide. As you heard the judge say, he's eventually going to prison anyway, and probably the reason why she had no problem with continuing his bond until sentencing is because he has not violated any conditions of release. So, I'm going to keep my eye on this situation, maybe even delve into it a little bit more, because I had no clue of this. Again, this is husband of Food Network star who pleads guilty in 3-year-old's death. I also think that because it was a foster child, they should have been dealt with more severely. I get it. The man probably is not going to reoffend or watch somebody else beat a child to death or whatever, abuse a child to death. However, the severity of a 3-year-old that was put in your guys' care to get, taken care of for the time being until whatever happened with that parent CPS case or whatever the situation was going on. And then you just, messed it up. He could have very well, did something probably to prevent this, especially if there was earlier abuse, which again, that's why I'm interested in looking into this case. So I had this sitting in here and I was like, as I'm trying to get some of these cases out, I'm just kind of grabbing things as I go and just reviewing them. But if you're not aware, I've been also doing videos on Queen's Throne Live, just pre-recorded videos on situations and things that are going on and unfolding. I am going to upload this to Queen's Throne TV, even though that channel is not really exactly geared for that. But I want to, kind of keep the videos coming and things like that. I am disappointed, though, like I said, that this man was able to be let out. I don't care if for the time being he was being good and things like that. It's alarming. It's really sad. And as we see, children are failed in the foster home. For whatever reason, this child was removed from the parent. Clearly, this child had no safety where this child was. You know what I mean? But it's my first time hearing about it. In reality, besides me adding it to the playlist. And I'm just like, this is ridiculous. All these cases, I have so many more cases of child abuse and things like that. And I'm going to continue to get these things out because these are the things that matter. Period. Anyway, if you would like to send me something, another case or something you want me to look into, please email me at queensthrone9@gmail.com or DM me on Instagram at queensthrone9. Much love. Shout out to the royal family. Shout out to those that have been supporting my pre-recorded videos coming, the shorter ones and things like that. I will start going live, but I do want to knock some of these cases out, and I'm going to try to get a hold of it this week. So hopefully there will be a lot of uploads coming your way as I delve into my playlist and look at the things that are continuing to come through my email and Instagram, and just things that the royal family is bringing to my attention, even in the premieres or comment section and things like that. You also have a choice to do that. So with that said, stay you, stay royal, stay uncompromisable. Please stay woke, because you will see me or hear my voice in another video or live stream. Please make sure you hit that like button on the way out, and if you can, share. I appreciate you. Much love. Oh, shout out to those that are buying merch and also supporting my channel with the donations. I appreciate you. Much love. Bye-bye.